first real innovations that we had that we were able to productize was a voice backup system we were doing in the healthcare market. In this case, you had large hospitals who had dozens of T1 terrestrial services, but when they were faced with a hurricane or some sort of a flood, and they lost those services from AT&T and Verizon. Our solution was to come up with a system that would automatically fail those over without humans involved. The phone calls would go over satellite to our main gateway in Northern California, and we'd put those back on the PSTN. So the users during of a hospital in the emergency room or in any event, when they lost communications, wouldn't really notice that they went down. You know, I think that the culture next to Inset, the thing that we do pretty well that addresses this is we ask why a lot. And when you work with a customer and you're developing a solution for them, you know, the question is whether it's going to be a custom solution specifically for them and their nuances, or whether it's really something that you're going to try to do to a broader market. So we work with the customer originally, try to find out what the requirements are, of course, and how they want them, but then we ask why a few times. And on occasion you can annoy them by asking why, so you have to be kind of good about it. Then we'll take another customer who we think's in the similar thing and we'll kind of pair it against what they want, and we'll ask why again, and we'll start to look for the similarities. And quite often what you realize is that what they're asking for isn't really what they literally want. And when you contrast them with somebody else, you can kind of come up with a common ground, and then you can restate back to them what you think the problem that they're trying to solve is. And once you get their buy-in from that, they still have the feeling that they've got a customized solution for them. They've participated in the process, they have some ownership of it, but yet you've come up with something that's much more practical to probably use with other customers as well. X2 Inset is full of engineers. Compared to any of our peers, the number of people we have in R&D and engineering type roles with engineering degrees is shockingly high. The downside of that is that you have engineers who want to fix problems that don't exist. They want to play with new toys. And in the old, until fairly recently, we spent a lot of money on science projects, as we called them, that were really looking for a market. And what we've done in the last few years is we really try to turn that around and say, if we have an idea, let's go try to size up how much of a problem this is. How big is the market for it? What are the competitive pressures going to be on pricing? It doesn't matter if we do an excellent job with a technology that we think is a great innovation and a great price for satellite if the customer's solving it for 1/100th the cost with 4G. There's just not enough, really there. That's not a real problem. So if we can put marketing and market sizing, market research first, it really helps us put the edges around to say, look, these are going to be showstoppers in any innovation that we do. And if we hit those, then we might as well not go a lot further than that. So it's not quite as fun for some of the engineering folks, but it does get us where we want to be. We have to hit our price points really from two different parts. So there's the bottom up, how much is it costing, what's our R&D allotment, so we have fixed margins that we do for R&D reimbursement, and sometimes we're above it, sometimes we're below it. So we kind of do it the bottom up, but then we also have to do kind of the top down, which is to say what's the market price for something. And on occasion that market price will afford us a fantastic margin that's really good, and other times there'll be a lot of competitive pressure and maybe the margins are below what our normal operating is, and then we've got to kind of make the decision on that. I think the most important mistake to avoid is figuring out when you become myopic about what you're doing. I'm an engineer. It's really easy to get wrapped into what you're doing and the process of learning about it and finding your new tool and what you can solve with your new tool. But you can also get so close to it that you really start filtering out input that you would need to make your product. I can't tell you the number of times that we've worked with a partner who has a really incredibly thought through widget that's just designed for nobody. Hewlett-Packard had a concept called the next bench theory, if you've ever heard it. The next bench theory was at Hewlett-Packard you'd have 2 engineers and they'd be sitting at their bench. And one engineer, when he was thinking about a decision about a knob, and he was thinking about which way the knob should turn and what the knob should do, he went to the engineer at the next bench and he said, hey, if this were you and I turned it this way or that way, what would the effect? And the other engineer would say, oh, well, for me, this is the way it was. And the story is about how that product is now developed for the guy at the next bench. And it's very easy to get sucked into the who you are and not who the end user is. And end users, like all people, are very interesting and can make the most unusual decisions. And so you really have to not get so wedded to the thing that you're building that you won't take other people's opinions because you just think that they don't know as much or it's unreasonable. If 9 out of 10 people think, who are actual end users, think it should be this, then it should be, regardless of what you, the expert, think it should be. And that's really hard for people. They get really focused and really down in the weeds, and they come up with some incredibly cool things that just aren't useful to anybody.